Good afternoon, children. During our last discussion, we discussed about classification of bacteria based on shape. Then we talked about flagellation, gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria, the basic difference, why they are called so. Then bacterial cell structure in detail. We discussed especially the various type of organelles and what is the importance associated. We discussed mainly about the plasmids. Then classification of bacteria according to mode of respiration, followed by classification of bacteria according to mode of nutrition. And our last headings were photosynthetic bacteria, chemoautotrophic bacteria, and under saprotrophic we discussed what is the difference between decay, fermentation and putrefaction. Moving on to our next topic for today, this is type of reproduction in bacteria. Now this in your syllabus is very clearly saying you have to discuss and learn only the definitions of some terms that are ticked with the blue color. Details not required. It's very clearly mentioned. So children, in your textbooks, it's been very detailed with all the diagrams therein. So please see that you're restricting to definitions only. Let us start. Types of reproduction in bacteria. Bacteria reproduce mainly by asexual and sexual methods. And under asexual, we'll talk about binary fission and sporulation. Binary means two and fission means to divide. So this is a very common method of multiplication, very easy and simple to understand, where one bacterium cell divides into identical two daughter cells by amitosis, right? And this especially is interesting to note that this undergoes, the bacterial cell undergoes this during favorable conditions, whereas sporulation is taken up by the bacterial cell under unfavorable conditions, where thick resistant endospores are formed. All right, so let us begin with the details just to understand the term and restrict to definition. Bacterial cell, it is known that under favorable conditions, they can divide after every 20 minutes, right? But practically this process slows down or comes to an end due to the exhaustion of water, food and accumulation of poisonous substances, right? So that is why we can see that the spoilage of food stuff, the turning of milk into curd and the quick spread of bacterial diseases is because of the very fact that it can divide every 20 minutes. Then let us talk about binary fission. I'll first show you this and then we'll talk about binary fission. This is your textbook, page number 2.16. Mechanism of binary fission in bacterium. Look at this. A very normal bacterial cell with the nucleoid, the plasma membrane, cytoplasm and the mesosome. You remember mesosome, children? It is the invagination or depression of the plasma membrane into cytoplasm. So binary fission, you can see very simply the nuclear material divides first into two. The mesosomes, they divide, and finally the cross walls are laid down and two cells are formed. So this is by definition to say most common method of multiplication in bacteria. The mature bacterial cell divides into two identical daughter cells. Identical means exactly the same daughter cells by amitosis, during which the bacterium chromosome, we call as nucleoid, it replicates to produce two nucleoids while attached to the mesosome. Cytoplasm divides and produces two daughter bacterial cells. This one would be more than enough for your definition. So for understanding, I think it's very simple to understand. Coming to the next, sporulation, though I have mentioned, but this is not given in your syllabus, but only understand that this goes on during unfavorable conditions by formation of thick-walled, highly resistant endospores. So whenever the conditions are favorable, the endospores, they come out and the bacterial cell leads a normal life, right? Then Coming to conjugation. As you can see, conjugation comes under sexual method. There are three forms to discuss: conjugation, transduction, and transformation. Conjugation, we can say, is a very primitive form of sexual reproduction. Also, children, to remind you, bacterial cells, they do not form gametes, right? So, first see the diagram. Let me show you what is conjugation. It is shown here. You can see this. Conjugation is the bacterial cells, as you can see, F plus and F minus. Why F plus? The one that has the F factor of plasmid is called as a donor or a male bacterial cell, and the one which does not have is called F minus or recipient. So these two kind of come in contact and they form a bridge kind of structure through which this factor is transferred to the recipient cell. So the conjugation method is by and large the transfer of genetic material between the two conjugates that have come in contact with each other. First time this was observed in Escherichia coli, and bacterial cells, they are known to be dimorphic, that is two types of cells. Just now you saw F plus and F minus. What is F plus called? The fertility factor on the plasmid, alright, that we discussed earlier. So what is conjugation? Now let us define it. It's a primitive form of sexual reproduction in which they transfer the genetic material between two conjugates on coming in contact with one another. Now in your book, children, I'll show you details are given as sexduction and episome formation. Not everything you have to study. As I told you, only the definition, which can be very clearly understood by the simple diagram. Moving to the next term, where we call as transduction. Transduction is the transfer of genetic material between one bacterium and the other, right, by a bacterial virus, that is a bacteriophage. So look at this. This is one bacterium, this is the other, and there is a bacteriophage or the bacterial virus which transfers the genetic material to the other. So this type of transfer of material, it is called as transduction. It was first discovered by Zinder and Lederberg in the year 1952. Alright, so that much would be enough. Only the definition, this can be learnt. And coming to the next term, it is called as transformation. First understand this. See, it was an experiment performed by a scientist called Griffith. He used mice for his purpose. What he did was, he injected two strains of bacterium called Diplococcus pneumoniae, right? Diplococcus pneumoniae he used, and one strain was the virulent bacterium, but it was heat killed and dead, right? Virulent means it had the capacity to form the disease, but it was made dead by the treatment with heat. That means it could not form the disease further. But it was mixed in the syringe or injection with the living avirulent bacterium. That means the bacterium was alive, but it did not have the capacity to form the disease. Did you understand it? So that means mice was injected by two types of bacterium, poisonous but dead, and the other was living but non-poisonous. Alright. Now what happened? That you can assume if this is being injected, obviously this will not show any effect. And this also shouldn't show any effect because this is not having the potential. But you know what? Ultimately, the mice died, right? And this made him really think that what has happened. The observation was justified with his result that the non-virulent had picked up DNA from the virulent strain. That means this non-virulent had taken the DNA from the dead substance and it became virulent. So this means the non-poisonous actually became poisonous by picking the DNA from the poisonous dead bacterium, and this is called as transformation. Transformation means to undergo a very drastic change. So what is the definition? It is the process of picking up genes, that is DNA, by a bacterium from the dead decaying bacterium, which is in this case the living one is picking up from the dead. So this is the one that was very interesting to study. Griffith performed this very famous experiment, and this is how the results were discussed. All right. So before we move further, let us talk about the types of reproduction which we are completing here. Once again, the definitions only: binary fission, conjugation, transduction, and transformation. I'll be sending these, so you can please write down. Moving further to economic importance of bacteria. Now, economic importance, children, usually doesn't mean that we are only talking about useful aspects. It means both. That is, harmful activities along with the useful activities. So, in your syllabus, it's been mentioned under 4 headings. That is, role of bacteria in sewage treatment, then antibiotics, energy production, and household products. It's only mentioned in your syllabus, but just very broadly, we'll just talk about in general. Harmful activities of bacteria, most of them we know. They spoil the food. They also spoil our domestic or household articles. They cause various diseases in humans, plants, and animals. They cause botulism or food poisoning. They cause denitrification, that is, they make the soil less fertile. Then they also destroy the antibiotic penicillin. All right. Then moving now to our detailed syllabus, that is economic importance one by one. Under sewage treatment, you have to only restrict to this, children. Sewage treatment, first let us understand the name of the bacterium which are important. There is an anaerobic bacteria, right? We can say methanogenic bacteria or methane producing bacteria, Methanococcus and Methanobacterium. Please learn these names, Methanococcus and Methanobacterium. What these do is that they decompose the solid organic matter of sewage, right? Sewage, if you remember, children, it's our normal household kitchen or toilet waste, etc., right? Then this is broken down, the solid organic matter called sludge. This is broken down, and the mixture of gases released is methane and carbon dioxide. So the mixture we call as biogas, and this has the potential to be used as a very efficient fuel for cooking, lighting, etc. All right. So now once the sludge is being reacted under this anaerobic decomposition, this gas can be used. What about the remainder sludge? It is used after drying as fertilizer. So that means nothing goes waste from the sludge. The solid substance used as fertilizer and the gaseous substance used for cooking, etc. Coming to antibiotics. Antibiotics, children, let's understand what do they mean. A chemical produced by microorganism which is used to treat the bacterial and fungal infections. Many antibiotics have been isolated from various bacteria and have been used as drugs for treating diseases that are caused by pathogenic microorganisms. That means bacterial cells, they have been tapped as a very good source of antibiotics, right? Gram-positive bacteria, they are more sensitive to antibiotics than gram-negative bacteria. All right. That means gram-positive, if I remind you, here these were the ones that picked up the purple, deep purple or violet color. They are more sensitive to antibiotics than the gram-negative ones. All right. Then there's a term we use, broad-spectrum antibiotic, which means antibiotic which acts on both gram-positive and gram-negative bacterium. That means the spectrum of action is a little wider because they will affect both the positive and negative, gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. Now, some antibiotics obtained from bacteria are given. You can learn one or two, children, if not all. Antibiotic called as colistrin, we also call it as polymyxin E. The source of this is Bacillus colistinus, and this acts upon gram-negative bacteria by, this is the mode of action, by destroying the cell membrane. Another one, tyrothricin, the source is Bacillus brevis. The range of action is on gram-negative bacteria, and this acts by inhibiting, that means stopping the formation of bacterial cell membrane. The third is polymyxin G. and the source is Bacillus polymyxa. It acts on gram-positive bacteria by destroying cytoplasmic membranes. And the last one is bacitracin. The source is Bacillus subtilis. It acts on gram-positive by inhibiting the synthesis or formation of bacterial cell wall. So this is all under the antibiotics. Before we move further, under economic importance, we discussed about sewage treatment, antibiotics, and now moving on to the last heading of this chapter is role of bacteria in energy production. In energy production, children, we have two headings to understand. First is biogas and the second is hydrogen producing bacteria. Under biogas, you have to understand how it is produced. So this is produced by anaerobic decomposition of animal waste, which include cow dung, then urine, agricultural and crop residues, and this decomposition is brought by methanogenic bacteria in special digesters called biogas plants. This gas has been very efficiently used and can be also used further as cooking or in lighting purposes, running of street lights, etc. Or it can be compressed, much like the natural gas, like that CNG, compressed natural gas, and this can be used to power the motor vehicles. That means this can substitute the petrol and diesel in the coming years. Then, under hydrogen producing bacterium, this is also interesting. Scientists, they have produced hydrogen gas, which is a very potential source of clean energy in the coming years, right? And how they have produced? By only using water, right? Nothing else. We can understand it must be definitely having no side effects, etc. So water being the source, and the action is being done by bacteria called E. coli and Clostridium, etc. So this hydrogen can be used as a potential source of clean energy. It can be also used in the motor vehicles to run the engines and also to generate electricity. So that completes the role of bacteria in energy production. Finally, role of bacteria in household products. In household, children, there are a variety of things we can discuss. Like, number one, several strains of bacteria have been known to produce ethanol, that is the ethyl alcohol, C2H5OH, and acetic acid or vinegar. CH3COOH is acetic acid. Another method is of household production of usable things are milk can be made to be acted upon by a lab, that is lactic acid bacteria, and this is used for production of buttermilk and yogurt, that is a flavored curd. Then cream has been known to be like cream can be made to be reacted by various strains of bacteria to flavor them and provide improvisation of the butter. Then same batch of milk is made to be acted upon by different types of bacteria for producing numerous varieties of cheese. Then fifth, formation of pickles. This is done under the action of species of lactic acid bacteria. And finally, the flavoring of sausages, which is also done by specific types of bacteria. So that's like everything that we can discuss in the household, from ethanol to vinegar, buttermilk, yogurt, butter, cheese, pickles, sausages, etc. Right? And finally, to end the chapter, children, this is a very important topic of differences between gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. Let's do them one by one. Gram-positive, they retain the gram stain. I'll just show you once again so that there is no confusion. Gram stain is this. Christian Gram, he used three steps on staining. First was crystal violet, bacteria was stained. Second, with 0.5% iodine solution, the stabilization. And third was washing with acetone or alcohol. The bacteria which took up this deep violet purple color were gram-positive, and some did not, but they were further stained by safranin or carbol fuchsin. These were gram-negative or the red ones. So what are the differences we are going to talk today? First, gram-positive, they retain the gram stain. Just now you saw it, right? The deep purple ones. Then these do not retain the gram stain. Why? Because they have been washed with organic solvents like acetone or absolute alcohol. Gram positive, the wall is single layered, but here they are double layered or two layered. Here the cell wall is 20 nm to 80 nm, but here it is 7.5 nm to 12 nm, that is, this is comparatively thinner. Fourth, they lack the pili or the fimbriae that act as the we can say formation of those conjugation tubes during conjugation, but here they are present. Mesosomes, they are present, that they are formed by invagination of cell membrane. Here they are absent. Then cell wall contains only traces of lipids. Here they contain up to 20%. Pathogenic forms are fewer, and here they are more abundant. And finally, the examples: Bacillus, Clostridium, Streptomyces and Streptococcus. And the gram-negative ones: Vibrio, Salmonella, Rhizobium and Escherichia. I have earlier done this, but once again I am revising because it's a very important thing. Please learn it by heart, and that completes your topic on kingdom Monera. So once again, children, I'm sending you of all the things that we have discussed. The topic is complete. Kingdom Monera started from here. I have already sent you the pages, children, of the things discussed till our last turn. This is the 4th page, the 5th and the 6th, the 7th, what we started today, the 8th one, 9th and the 10th and the last. With that we complete this chapter, children, and this was our 4th topic, which is over, that is Kingdom Monera. My next topic from tomorrow onwards would be Kingdom Protista. Kindly copy down all these notes. I'll be sending you some practice questions also. Practice the same, but I'll upload the answers after some time so that you can tally the correct ones. Thank you.